One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Okay, Tracie, so you've been in Indianapolis for 2.5 years as the Director of Championships and Alliances for women's basketball with an emphasis on business operations. Of course, this tenure has followed your time at Old Hat, and then previous to that, of course, you had a notable stretch in the marketing arm at Northwestern for a number of years. But we want to talk about the women's Final Four and women's basketball kind of as a whole today in this conversation. And I want to start with the rules changes that went into place this last season. What feedback you guys have received at the national office, how you think those were implemented, and what we may see rules change-wise and format change-wise as the sport moves forward.
Sure. The rule changes, again, we like change. Change is good, and we've been able to make a couple of changes and then evaluate and see what works. Of course, nothing works for everyone, and so we want to make sure that when we do make a change that everyone feels comfortable with it. So specifically on my end, when we changed the rule to the 4 quarters, we thought it was great for the development of the game because you have that in high school to college to the WNBA. So to have that middle part where the women have to kind of change what they've learned, we just didn't feel like that was a good idea. So we like the idea of changing that to the 4 quarters. On a marketing side, that also for us let it speed up the game a little bit. It allowed us to have a couple of more exciting finishes. After that first quarter, you could have a last-second shot. After the third quarter, a last-second shot. And it also allowed for people to have more timeouts and different ways to play with things in order to entertain the crowd. So we thought all around that this could be a good opportunity for everyone to kind of experience that.
And how about format changes as the tournament moves forward in subsequent years? Obviously, you're going to move some days around to potentially try to drive more attendance. Let's talk through those, the rationale of why you're doing them, and the expected outcomes.
Well, as you mentioned, I've been here 2.5 years, and when I came in, we had just changed from the Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday format for the first and second rounds and regionals. And so we did that to help with attendance to be able to get more games on the weekends. And so we tried that out. It went really, really well as far as attendance on those weekends. But one thing that we didn't anticipate is that we had those Friday afternoon games. And so now that was a little bit harder for us to get the staff there on campus to be able to take off. You know, they find out on Monday night that they're going to be hosting a game, and then they go and they have to schedule their staff, but then also to get their fans to come to maybe a noon game on a Friday. So it was a little bit of a challenge for those Friday games, but we did have those that were at night that did well. The Saturday, Sunday games did really well. And again, you have that Monday where you're probably, UConn gets that 9 p.m. slot. So again, a couple of challenges with the timing, which again, you have a strategy and you want to do attendance, but we also look out for our ESPN partner and they have ratings to worry about. So we try and do those compromises. So we like the idea of moving those to the Friday, Sunday. And that seems to be working well. We have to, again, consider all factors, but it's working well as far as the attendance goes. We also went to non-predetermined last year. So this is our second year doing that. And again, that's like only giving you a couple of days to sell tickets. And so for fans to understand that if they're in the top 16, they have a good chance of hosting and the importance of being in the top 10 and those top 10 announcements we had. So it's a lot of an education process for the fans to understand this is what's going on. And also this year, that was new, we didn't announce the second round game time until after the first round game. So now you're also not telling anyone what time you're playing on Sunday or Monday until they've finished those Friday, Saturday games. So again, that was to help ESPN for us to get the best windows. So making decisions for attendance and ratings and trying to do the best we can there. With that research, again, we're continuing to evaluate what's best. We did see some ratings dip when we did move to the Friday, Sunday, so we're still evaluating. But what was already in place was then to move the Final Four to Friday, Monday. or Friday, Sunday. So that's what we will be doing next year in Dallas for the first time. And we're excited about that because the research has shown that fans can't take off 3 days of work to be able to attend our event, especially on such short notice when they find out, again, their team makes it in on Monday night to be able to be on a flight by Friday and ask for 3 days off work on that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So definitely looking forward to seeing how the Friday, Sunday works for our Final Four attendance.
I want to come back to ESPN ratings and some other metrics that you and your team look at to define success. But one topic that arguably dominates women's basketball marketing anywhere in the nation is price points and the sales of women's basketball tickets and or the giveaway of women's basketball tickets. Where does your all's position stand currently on that topic, and how are you trying to help set the narrative for schools around the nation when it comes to how they position their tickets?
That's a great question, and that's exactly why I'm here. As you mentioned, I worked on campus. I know how hard it is to sell women's basketball. I had 13 losing seasons when I worked at Northwestern, but we set attendance records every year because we made it more about the student athletes and the coaches and just the experience that you had at the games. So coming here at the NCAA, trying to get everyone on the same page so that we can have that one voice and that one direction and have that strategy. So again, since we host on campus, the prices that the people on campus set for their own regular season games has a huge effect on how much we sell for our first and second round games because they are hosting. So if fans are used to a $2 ticket or a group rate of $1.50 or a season ticket that accumulates to $2.50 a game, and we come in and say one game is $15, then we hear from the people on campus that it's tough for them to make that sale. So what we're trying to do is get everyone on the same page and say, there is a value in women's basketball. To not charge for an NCAA tournament game, it's crazy. I mean, this is the start of the best basketball that you're going to see all year. And so we really are trying to figure out how can we all get on the same page and provide that value. I'm all for adding value. For example, we did a balcony bash this year for our upper bowl seats. We have trouble selling the upper bowl too, just like people on campus have trouble selling their tickets. So, but instead of discounting the ticket, it was the same price, but you got, to meet some of the Fever players. You got to go to a special pregame event. There were different things that we threw in there. There were giveaway items and things like that. And so we added value and made it the fun section and marketed it that way. And so again, trying to take away from, I'm sitting up in the balcony, to say, you get to sit up in the balcony, my friend. So those are the things that we're trying to work on campus, is that add value rather than discount the ticket. And we've been doing some webinars. We have a Facebook group. I'm very active on Twitter. I have a blog all about women's basketball. So if people do have questions or they have challenges, again, if on the rule changes, for those who we said, hey, this is awesome, look at what you can do during those timeouts now. For those few people who said, I don't have enough content, I don't have sponsors, I don't know what to do, they call me up. We talk about it. People share in the Facebook group. So we're here to make sure that the changes we make are good for everyone on campus, and we also listen to all the feedback that they give us. But providing value is my number one thing, because again, people on campus, if you're not bringing in money, then they're not going to invest in that. For example, when you're making phone calls, if you have an outbound sales team, they sell for football and men's basketball because those people are making commission and they're making money. If you're selling a ticket at $5, they're not going to be making those sales calls for you. So having that value so that you can have other people invest in you is really important to us. So we do that on our end, and we're hoping that we can get everyone on board on campus so that we can kind of, again, move together with that same strategy.
And how about promotionally? I feel like this year around the Final Four, everywhere I looked on social media for a number of days, specifically the weekend of the Final Four, the dribble to work push was like a significant success. And I don't have any numbers to point to say, social media mentions were X and impressions were Y or anything like that. I just know I saw it everywhere. So detail how that went, and then how is that going to parlay into campus success?
Yes, I will say we hired Jared Thompson right around the same time that I got here about 2 years ago. And yeah, I don't have the exact numbers, but they are ridiculous what he's been able to grow here for us. I mean, just even the amount of followers that we picked up between just at the start of the tournament through the end, I think it was almost double. So he has done an amazing job. He really understands the stories that we want to tell. And I think for us, when I was on campus, I told the story of the student athletes and the coaches. I don't have any student athletes or coaches to tell the story with, because if I start to tell the UConn story, then another school's mad if we start to tell a story about someone else. So you're trying to tell the story of the women's tournament without really singling anyone out. So Jared has found a really great way to be able to tell those stories with everyone feeling that we're supporting women's basketball and not just as an individual school. So he's done a great job with that. We've also just tried to find different ways creatively to get out there. For Selection Monday, we're always in the middle of what's going on for the men for that Selection Sunday. We just wanted to have our own voice. So 2 years ago, we came up with Dribble to Work Day, where simply enough, you just downtown, we were in Tampa. We're going to be in Tampa that year. Had some basketballs and people were dribbling to work. They got everyone on board in their community. They got their pro teams. We had one of the Lightning players dribble in full pads to the ice, which made it into SportsCenter's top 10 plays. I mean, the social media hits that we had that day was more than what we would have on during the Final Four weekend. So it was a great promotion, and it was something where it cost us basically no money to be able to get out there and get our voice heard. So we're just trying to be more creative and try and get that story told in a different way. And Jared, like I said, has done an amazing job with that.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.